wisdom or whatever you almost acquire in life is going to be limited or unlimited depending on the environment that you place yourself in, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, okay. So now we're done with your first degree, right? You go and serve at the chief advisor's office, right? How was that experience like?
Sure. It was the most amazing experience. I learned a lot. I almost worked there for like 10 years because I left in my 9th year. So when I got the job and I researched, I realized that people who work at the Office of the Chief State Law Advisors actually work for Parliament because we would translate legislative documents, edit, proofread for the members of Parliament to discuss during the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee meetings. And so I was like, this is actually my dream being realized of doing parliamentary work. So even on my CV, I have, that I've done parliamentary portfolio committee work, and then I list out all the projects that I've worked on. And I used to, as part of my job, I used to go to Parliament once a week and listen in those meetings. They never used to be as hectic as they are now.
Hey, now Parliament, it's intense.
I mean, I remember people actually discussing legislation and concluding the topics, and we, knowing, okay, this is what we're going to work on. And I don't remember these arguments that we see now.
The debates, it's always the debates.
Yeah, but fruitless, because debates are good, but the fruitless ones that we see now where people are just attacking each other's
personalities.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't encounter as many of those. So I had so much respect for, the House of Parliament, and I loved it. And I learned so much until it felt like, okay, now this is, so I like a good challenge, but as soon as I master something and, I could do it with my eyes closed, I was like, okay, now this is getting less challenging. So I needed a challenge. And, God works in mysterious ways, because at the time I felt like I needed transition. I actually was involved in a bike accident. So I used to ride a Ninja Kawasaki, so I love motorcycles.
Okay.
And I got into an accident because, there was a hit and run. I don't remember anything, but apparently somebody got off their lane and hit me. And because of that, my memory was affected.
Sure.
And I remember coming out of the hospital, like the front rear, the light of my bike was completely detached, and I flew off the bike when I apparently saw the car coming, and that's what saved me. And my helmet visor was off. It was terrible, but God just protected me. Like nothing was broken, in my body. And my mind was also safe, obviously, because I was also wearing a helmet. And then when I came back home, I remember trying to get my bank cards, and I remembered nothing. Like everything from like the day before, I remembered nothing. And I would speak to people, like I went back to work. When I was speaking to people, like you would say, hi, I am so-and-so, and I would be listening. But immediately after you've said your name, I don't remember. And I would read, and you must remember, I earned a living, using my intellect, my brain. And I would read a paragraph on a document, and immediately after reading, I didn't know what I had read.
Sure.
But funny enough, the only thing I remembered at work was how to do my work. It's so weird. I don't. So, and also my long-term memory was intact. So I remembered like my parents, my history. I just couldn't retain information.
Yes, or new information.
Yeah, new information.
You couldn't hold it up. Okay.
And that messed me up big time, because as somebody who, relies on being able to recall information, use what I know to earn an income, that was very scary. But once again, it was necessary because it helped me lean on God. That's my source. That's how I do everything that I do. And I remember speaking to God, and I said, God, I don't know what's happening. I feel very scared. I don't want to lose my job because I'm incapacitated. And God just kept on allowing me to continue doing the work. And I said to him, this is not going to be sustainable. I need to do something to help my memory come back, to improve it. And I always think about crazy things. Like even now, like I don't plan normal things because I know what you, like the power that you have as a person. And
God.
I
You're
wish
like,
people
test me.
could tap into that. So as useless as I felt at the time, I prayed a prayer and I said, God, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to register for a law degree. And if you love me the way you say you do, you're going to show up for me. You're going to help me, because right now, as you lender the smarty pants, I will definitely fail dismally because my memory is failing me. But I need you to come through for me, and I will do the work, but I need you. And that's how I'm going to see. And so I registered for my LLB while working full time. And I remember writing on a piece of document, I said, thank God for my 10 distinctions. And I put it on the fridge. That was a joke at the time. Like, I wasn't joking, but it felt like a joke.
It was
You know, when
unreal.
you make those plans and you feel like, who do I think I am? And you doubt yourself. And I do doubt myself sometimes, but I don't dwell in the self-doubt. And I put it on the fridge and I said, thank God for 10 distinctions. So every day I saw it. When I woke up, I saw that note and I prayed and I worked. And one thing I can do is work. I can wake up at 2 a.m. and do the work. So every day I would go to work in the morning, come back, shower at around 5, and then sleep, wake up at 2 a.m., study until I go to work, and then come back, do the same thing. And I did that, and I did that. And I didn't have a life, and I was like, I'm not going to date. I'm not going to do things that are going to take my focus off what I'm doing. So, and then I did it, and the year went by, and at the end of the year, I got 10 distinctions. And I was like, what? I shocked myself, but I knew it was God. He came through. I mean, I did my part, but he came through. There's no way that it was just me where I was, memory-wise. And then, I was like, oh, this works. And then the second year, I registered for 10 subjects again. They were saying, Yolanda, this is crazy. People who do this full-time, they only do 7 per year. Why would you do 10 when you're
10
working
per year,
full-time, 9 to 5? And I was performing the same. I was getting the same kind of assessment, excellent reviews at work. And I did this, and I was like, 10 more. I wrote again. I put it there. Same thing happened in the second year. I got the 10 distinctions, and I did it in the third year. And, because I had said to myself, I don't want to interrupt this process, I realized in third year that actually I have proven the point. When I calculated my marks before I even got to fourth year, I knew I was going to graduate cum laude. And I was like, there's no need to prove a point anymore. In my fourth year, that's when I was like, I can relax a bit, because sometimes I can be intense. And if I say I'm not going to do something, I'm too strict and I won't do it. I won't date. Or if I'm dating, I'll tell the guy, hey, listen, I don't want anything serious. I'm busy with this. So we can just go out, but I don't want a serious relationship. I did that at some point, but I was very upfront. And then, in my fourth year, I met my husband.
Wow, okay.
And that's when I was like, okay,
that's the time where you're relaxed.
Yeah, I was like, no. I got married actually in my fourth year because the man knew what he wanted.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm tired of dealing with people who don't know what they want. And, it takes a secure, strong man to handle a woman like me. And if you don't know what you want, you're not sure, and I don't go with the flow, then we're not gonna, do anything. So he knew what he wanted. Like within the first month of meeting, we were talking every day, and he also, has God in his life, which is very important for me. And so within the first month, he said he knew that I was gonna be his wife because of certain things that were happening. That every time we were together, and like, it's just the peace that he felt when he was with me, and also told his parents. I was the first girl he told his parents about.
Oh, okay.
Took home. So I was like, okay, I can, this guy seems to be the one. And I'm glad I listened, because that was God bringing a good man into my life.
Sure.
A man that would allow me to live my fullest life without feeling like, oh, I'm married, I can't do this. I can't. No, this man is like, you're so awesome. Go do it. If I say, I need to go to Joburg for this meeting, he's the one like booking my flights. He's like making my life easy, and he's got a job that he also has to focus on, but he will leave everything and focus on making my life better. So why wouldn't you forget about the distinctions for a little bit? And I was like, okay, I'm still gonna get my degree cum laude. So then I got married in my fourth year, and the rest is history.
I love that. And then how do you go into one of the big international law firms?
I actually didn't even apply to go there.
Okay, they headhunted you.
Yes,
All right.
I met one of the directors. What I would advise people, I know you haven't said I must advise yet, but please keep an open mind. Like, don't close yourself up. Like when you meet people, be open, talk to them, and you know, a lot of things can come from that. I was at a nail salon getting my nails done during my lunch, because I was working at the Chief State Law Advisor. And this lady comes, she's wearing a lanyard and it's got Latin on it. And I was studying law. It was in my final year. And yeah, so when I was praying for the distinctions, I also prayed for God to put me at one of the big fives.
Okay.
But obviously I needed to apply, and I'm not perfect, so I didn't even take the steps. I just feel like most things I do, like I'm spiritually led. I don't know, it sounds weird, but if I don't do something, most times I know that I wasn't meant to do it. So for some reason I didn't apply, and the time, it just passed. And I was like, oh, damn, I missed the opportunity. But something in my head was like, no, you're fine. You have a job and you're going to use that degree one way or the other.
Sure.
And so when I went to do my nails, this lady comes. Her name is Lauren Fine. I'll never forget. Even today, she was my principal when I got in the firm. But she was wearing this lanyard and it had pro something on it, like pro, I don't know. Oh, no, sorry. I was wearing the lanyard. It had prodeo on it.
Okay.
And prodeo is a Latin term, and it was from my church, actually. The lanyard was, I don't know why I was wearing that lanyard, because I was at work. I was
to say you were wearing church attire to work.
Yeah, I had it. Oh, I was using it for my keys.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was using it for my keys, and then I sat down to do my nails, and then she looked at me. She was also there to do her nails. It was where I did my nails was next door, Norton Rose's offices.
Okay.
And so she looked at me and she was like, oh, where did you get that? And then that's how the conversation started. And if you start a conversation with me, I will finish it. And so I was, telling her everything that she needs to know about me without even, like, in a subtle way. I said, oh, I'm studying law. And she started asking me questions, and I was answering and asking her questions because I saw Norton Rose on something that she had as well, her lanyard. And I was like, oh, you work at Norton Rose? And she said, yeah, I'm a director there. And we started speaking, and I loved her. She was so friendly. And yeah, she said to me, wow, you sound like you know a lot about what you do and what you are studying. And it's impressive that you are working while studying at the same time. And I said, oh, thank you. And she said, so where are you going to go next year when you're done with your law degree? I said to her, you know what? I wanted to go to the big five, any of the big five law firms, like your firm. But I didn't apply on time. So I don't know, but I know that it's going to be awesome. Wherever I'm going to go, I'm going to get, an amazing experience. And then she said, oh, if you want, you can message me, email me your academic record. And she gave me her business card, and that was it. And I sent it to her immediately. And when she looked at my record and my CV, she was like, wow. She wanted to introduce me to the CEO of Norton Rose. At the time, he lived in Durban. Yeah. He was also head of Cape Town office. And so global chair and head of Cape Town office. So she told him about me. Mind you, this is not the normal process of recruitment because HR does but she was so impressed. She was like, man, you need to meet this girl. And she said to me, I'll arrange coffee when he's here for business. I want you to meet him. And an opportunity came. They invited me for coffee. I knew coffee is not coffee, it's an interview. When you are somebody looking for a job. So what I did, and I've always been doing, I'm like you, I always do extra things. I'm like, what can I do to add to, to be resourceful? And so my name was on a published dictionary, a JUTA published dictionary, criminal procedure, bilingual dictionary, because I was part of the Center for Legal Terminology in African Languages. So we were developing that. So now I took this dictionary with me to the coffee.
Were you going to gift them?
Yeah, I was like, no, they need to see I'm a published girly. Like, not even done with my degree, but my name is on a legal document or book. And so, I took it with me and I pledged Switzerland, everything. And we had coffee and they were asking me questions. And you know, when people are impressed, you can see it.
Yes.
They were very impressed. But I was like, you need to be calm and you need to be
Relaxed.
down to earth and, you know, don't make them see that you can see that they like you. Just be, you know, humble, but also show up for
Sure.
yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, and I did. And he loved me. And so he was like, we need this girl. We need to hire this girl. And yeah, they made me an offer and they got me in the next year.
Oh my God, love that. But
Yeah.
you know what I love about your story is you had something to offer.
Yeah.
You know, many times, so there's a video that I put out, people chopped me off. Like I was having a conversation with Buhlali Ne. And then we're talking. So I asked her, what are the things people should consider in a CV, right? And then she stated out many things, right? And then people were so upset. They're like, no, these days you get jobs, study connections and stuff like that. Like they said so many things. I was like, okay, guys, calm down. But then, you know, in some responding to some of the comments and just thinking about the whole flare up, I was thinking about how many times people think it's just about connection. Guys, no connected person can give you anything when you don't know what you're doing.
There needs to be merit,
Half the time we think connections are just about, hey, you don't have a law degree, you don't have anything, come to the job. No.
Yeah.
It's like also, what can you offer me? Like give people something to work with.
Yeah.
When we say network, we are not saying just go and be like, hey guys, I want a job. You go there and say, this is what I have to offer. This is what I know, but I'm also willing to learn more.
Yeah.
And this is what I know that can do this for your brand, you know, because people also love people that have something to offer, have something to give.
Yeah.
In return, I really love also how you were so intentional about your approach. I'm also a firm believer in don't always follow procedure. You know, one of my usernames is God's favorite kid. And I say this because I'm always the one that suffers the most, but I always get the best of testimonies. And not because I have a cheat code or anything like that, but usually because God has a funny way of using things that don't matter. When I look at your pivot into your law degree, something tragic had to happen to you. With me as well, when I went to do my master's and how I ended up studying Employment Wednesday, I was badly banned. I couldn't go to interviews. I couldn't secure articles. And also, funny story, I'd interviewed at Norton, right?
Wow.
I think it was just about end of my second year, right? Went through the interview processes, processes. And I think round about the last interviews, I get banned, right? I can't attend most of the interviews.
Sure.
And besides that, I think the HR changed. Then we had to start all the applications from over. And there was this process, I think they were using Leaply or something like that, which was so tedious. And I ended up not getting in. But I was so upset. I'm like, so many unfortunate things are happening to me. You know, this could have been an opportunity of a lifetime and stuff. But at the end, you realize that things do work out for your good in the end. You know, when you don't go through certain tragic things, you wouldn't achieve certain things.
Absolutely.
You know, certain things wouldn't have happened. Imagine if you were cruising nice. I mean, at that time, Vele, it's unfortunate when something happens to your health, you know, because you're suffering memory loss or it's painful.
Yeah.
But if you hadn't gone through that, who knows? You probably wouldn't have studied law. You probably would have sat in your comfortable place or challenged yourself in a different way that would have maybe delayed your purpose or whatever the case may be.
That's so true.
So I really love your journey, and I love that you consistently told yourself that, you know what, if anything, if I'm going to be sabotaged, it won't be because I didn't do the work. It'll probably be because of the systems of this world. But on my part, I will do everything I can to make sure that I meet the criteria. You know, and then now you write notary, you write conveyancing. Like what's going on? Oh, board, you don't have other things to do.
I guess I just enjoy suffering. But no, I'm highly ambitious, so I don't just want a little bit.
Yeah, you're in the big part of the pie.
Yeah, and also, let me be honest, when we get into a place like that, a big law firm like that, it's not just you. You're not special anymore.
Sure.
There's nothing that is making you, you know, set apart, because there's other smart people there.
Sure.
They're very smart. So now it's like, okay, it's no longer about, oh, you landed the class rep. No, like it doesn't even matter there.
Yeah.
So for me, I always went in thinking, I'm going in here to add value, but I'm going in there to also invest in myself.
Sure.
And I advise people all the time, when you are doing anything, make sure that there's also an investment in yourself.
Sure.
In that process. You could be employed somewhere. What are you gonna take with you when when you
For
have
your
to leave?
good.
I mean, yeah, I ended up depressed. And I'm not gonna get too much into detail about the nitty-gritties or the details of how I got depressed, but corporate life is not easy.
Sure.
It's not. And sometimes what is disguised as a blessing can also take you through the fire, but everything is meant to refine you. That's the thing.
Sure.
If you are somebody that sees opportunities, nothing can make you feel like you are a victim forever. And I had my moments where I felt like, and my personality was, altered, and I felt like I don't know who I was anymore, because I was not living in my fullest purpose. And, when I was doing my articles, I excelled in terms of performance. My assessments in the first year were great. And then I asked to be in real estate, because I was like, I'm not a litigant. I will not stand going to court every day, running and dealing with postponements. It was just not who I wanted to be. And I always knew, like when I was planning for my future, I always knew I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to be a wife.
Sure.
So, at the time I was at Norton, I was already married, because it's 2019.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to be a mom. So everything I was doing was informed by the life I wanted. And I was like, this litigation thing is not going to make me a healthy mom or wife.
Sure.
So I asked to be put in the real estate department. And I always knew how to use things to my advantage and make people see the value for them, while I knew the value was actually for me. So what I did is I asked to be put in the real estate department, first of all, because I was like, obviously at first I'm like, I'm going to grow in the firm, maybe one day be this.
Director, partner.
And then you get in and you see how things are, and you like, see, it's amazing. You learn a lot. I'm not going to discount that. But I think I wanted a different life, especially when I saw some of the directors, and I was like, do I really want to be like you when I'm 50? And I was like, the answer was no. I want to be successful. I want to be wealthy, but I don't want it at that cost. Yeah. And so for me, I think those questions were answered. I was like, okay. And I learned a lot from those people. Like everyone that was my mentor, that I worked under, I learned a lot from them. I mean, I had some bad experiences, but I also had some good ones. And I choose to highlight the good ones to move forward positively. But I was very strategic when I saw that this is not going to work in this department, where we're running around everywhere. We're doing this. We're not sleeping. I was getting home at 12 at night and waking up at 3 a.m. I was like, I'm not going to last. I know I'm young, but it's not going to work. But that's normal as a CA. And you're also learning, etc. And then I was like, please, can you put me in the real estate department? And they don't do that. They like do rotations every six months. And I was like, I need you to put me in the real estate department because I want to learn that, and I kind of feel like this is not for me. So I want to be somewhere where I can add great value while it's still early. So in my first year, and they had to do some things, because you don't decide where you go. They decide for you. But somehow I got in my second rotation. When I got in there, oh my God, I made myself indispensable. So and the secretaries, they were like my mentors, because I didn't have that thing, I'm a lawyer. You are nothing if you don't know anything. So you are nothing without experience. And so I still love them today, the secretaries. Those are the people who made it feel like home for me. And the messengers, and we still, I have so much respect for them. And they were the only people that looked like me, so we connected. So I used to sit next to, the secretary and say, how do you do a transfer? How do you, even before I got to the department, and I would ask her to give me work. So when she was doing her work, I would say, okay, let me do it for you. And I would do the work. And then if I'm dealing with sectional titles, I had the books and everything. So I would go and read the whole chapter as if I'm writing an exam. That's how you pass a convincing exam. If you're not that obsessed, you are not going to make the 5 people that pass every year in South Africa. You're not going to make that number, unfortunately. And there's another layer to that. I feel like there's something wrong there. It's not normal that only 5 people in the country. But I'm talking about if you now want to be part of those people who make it despite the bureaucracy and the monopolization, which that's in my view. Conveyancing is highly monopolized in our country. If you have to be obsessed. So I was very obsessed. I was doing the secretary's work. I was listening to them like they are my principal. And they loved me because I had a lot of respect for them. But it's because I recognized that they knew way more than me. Because I knew nothing about conveyancing. So the basic administrative parts of conveyancing I learned from them. And when my director would say, do this research, do this, I would excel in it because that's my strong point. And they would always give me amazing reviews. But I was learning from the secretaries. And when the messenger was taking something to the deeds office, I would be like, can I see? And then I would page it through the lodgement cover, and I would be like, okay, the draft deed, the power of attorney, the rates clearance, what is this? Why do we need to lodge this? I was so inquisitive. And then I would go and read the chapter. And that's how I learned. And so I was learning, and then I was like, I want to do this. And I spoke to the secretaries. I was like, what do you think I need to do so that they can like me enough to keep me here? Because now, at the end of the 6 months, you have to go.
Rotate again.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to labor. Or that was just not because they also have to go to court, and I don't like to go to court. And so, they gave me some tips. They're like, oh, so-and-so likes it when you do this. And I did what they said. And I also made sure that when they gave me something to do, I did it to the best of my ability. So by the end of the term, they also, I think I made myself quite indispensable. They also liked having me there because I was hungry to learn. So I wasn't like, oh, I know. I was like, okay, I don't know, help me. What can I do? And I was asking questions, and I didn't always get it right, but I was open to learn.
Willingness to learn.
And so I strategically went to the director's office and I said, hi, so-and-so, please can you... I know you are part of the people that decide, on the rotations. I want to, so I went there. No candidate attorney wanted to write or touch the conveyancing exam. I was the only one. So I was like, I'm going to use that to my advantage. And I went there and I said, I want to write the conveyancing exam. And they've been trying to get candidates to
write it.
And no one wanted that because they don't want to fail. And so I went there and I was like, I'm going to write the exam. But only if you keep me here.
Okay. What's in it for me?
Because if you keep me here, it's an advantage because I'm going to actually do the work while I'm studying.
Yes.
So it's going to make me so effective. And she bought it. And it was a good strategy. And and she was like, oh, that's so amazing. She was so happy. She said, you are the only one, And I was like, yeah. So that's what I thought when I went in, seeing so many CAs. I was like, we are all going to end up, we are lawyers. We're going to end up as admitted attorney. There's nothing special there. That was my thinking. I need to do something extra that will set me apart so that when they are making decisions about who to keep and who to let go, I make it hard for them to let me go. And so conveyancing was a no-brainer. I will be the only one. It's a skill that every law firm wants you to have, and not a lot of lawyers like to have, to go through the process, the fire. So so I thought I'm gonna be a notary and a conveyancer because I also saw how notaries were so, they were so respected because it's a highly specialized field. Like even other departments, and there were very few. Other departments, when they, like, for instance, doing renewable energy work, dealing with different things like documents that need to be authenticated, notarized, they would say, oh, our client from, the US or from whatever country is coming, we need a notary. And that one notary is like, please, can you be available? And I was like, oh, this is a limited resource. I also need to get this in my bag. So when I did my articles in the first year, I was very strategic. Everything I was doing there was strategy. When other CAs are like, vibing, it was nice. And they were also strategic in their own way. My strategy was, get as many things that no one wants
as you can.
But the firm needs. And that was a good strategy. So I wrote all my 4 board exams in the first year because I was like, if I'm going to do conveyancing and notary and be ready and have them before they make the decisions about who to retain, then I need to write all the 4 board exams. So I remember I studied like crazy and I wrote 4 exams in 2 days and I was pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
But I wrote and I passed all 4 same
Wow.
time, like at like first sitting. In the first year, and then the second year I wrote. Yeah, when I was pregnant, it was in my second year. I wrote conveyancing, the 2 exams, and notary in consecutive days, 2 consecutive days. And so by the end of the second year, I had written all 4 board exams and all the conveyancing exams and all the notarial exams.
And you passed all of them at first attempt?
I didn't need to repeat any of them.
No, God has faves.
And I remember with the notary one, I actually didn't study enough because I wasn't doing too much notarial work. I studied 3 days before the exam, and I got an oral. Oral. So yeah, I thought I was gonna fail that one. It was gonna be like, oh my God, I don't know how it's gonna feel. But I also realized that you did a lot. So I studied 3 days before, and then I got accepted to do the oral, and I smashed the oral and I got it. So I didn't need to repeat it. And so when I did my admission, I got triple admitted. It was the best feeling, but it was also a very confusing day for me because that's when I had, gone through so much, and I was like questioning,
all this for what?
Why was it worth it? I think I was going through some crisis, but there were, a series of events that led to that. But now looking back, I'm like, damn, thank you, God, for letting me do that, because now I use all the skills in my firm. And so
I love your journey. It's very inspiring. And I think the biggest lesson I'm taking away from that is that find a gap.
Yeah.
Get your actually, like you were in my business. It feels like you're with me. Even in my devotion this morning, it says there's a scripture in Proverbs that says a stable without an oxen, you won't reap from it. There won't be any crops or anything like that. So from what I'm getting from you is that you need to get your hands dirty sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You need to do the hard work. You need to do the things that people don't want to do.
Yeah.
And in the moment, it can be very tedious and it can feel some type of way. But in future, it can actually reap good rewards like it has for you.
Absolutely.
I really love that. And briefly, because time has flown by so fast, right? Then what was the turning point where you decided to start your own practice? Why start your own practice?
Sure. Actually, I didn't think I would ever be a lawyer again. After I got depressed, because it was just not natural how I was working, and the hours and everything, and it made me sick, and so I got diagnosed with major depression and burnout syndrome, and mentally I needed to do a lot of work to heal. So I was so wounded that I said, I never want to be a lawyer. I never. This field. Why did I even study law?
Sure.
And then I went through therapy, and I stayed home for like a year almost, healing, going through therapy. And so, I thought to myself, I've put this behind me, and I also don't ever want to be employed. That's what I thought to myself. I don't ever want to have a boss. And so I sat home, I stayed, and as time went by, I'm a producer, like I like to create and produce. And so when I was sitting home, it was beautiful because I got to bond with my children, but I was like, okay, what now? And I remember this one time I was, cleaning the floor, and my husband was working from home that day. He hadn't gone to the office, and I was busy, and I said to him, I know I said I don't ever want to be employed. And I mean, he was, taking care of us. So I had the privilege of having a husband that works, even though obviously our lifestyle had to be, adjust a little bit. But that was a privilege for me that I could stay home for that long. And I did a few things to ensure that, I could stay home for that period. But I was essentially just home, not making money, and just healing and enjoying myself and my time with my family. And I said to him, you know what, I've healed now. And the therapist said to me, no, you don't need these sessions anymore. And I said to him, what am I going to do with my time? Because I feel like if I'm not going to work again, and I don't want to be a lawyer anymore, because I just don't think this is for me, my experience. What am I going to do? And he just casually said to me, oh, well, Bunny, why don't you start your own law firm? You can decide who you want to serve, what you want to do, how much work you want to, engage in. And you can work with people that are aligned to you. And I was like, damn, that's right. And that day, I called my friend Zianda, and I was like, Zianda, you started a firm. We started together, and I said, how does one start a firm? And I'm telling you, on that day I started, I registered my firm. I got everything together. I started the process of registering, and the rest is history. And I remember going with my husband. I was so excited. I'm a doer, so if I think of something, I'm gonna do it now. And I remember us driving, and so I was telling him, he was helping me brainstorm, and I said to him, so who am I gonna serve? And I was like, I don't wanna be a lawyer that's always busy. But not making enough money. So I wanna actually do impactful work, but I want to do it for people who can afford my time. And so we were driving, and I was like, oh, God just kept on giving me these ideas. You need to go where your ideal client is. And so I was like, we were driving at the waterfront, and my husband saw this office that we are at now.
Sure,
And he's
so
like,
beautiful.
oh, look, there's an office there. And I was like, oh, let's go and ask. Immediately we went, and I was like, this is going to be our office. And then we were not staying in Sea Point at the time, but I just felt, and we did it, it's not like we had a lot of money, no. But I just felt like God was saying, as I was praying, he was like, okay, the people you want to serve, where do they live? Go be close to them. And so for me, I was like, Bunny, we need to, and my husband does everything I ask. If I say we need to do this, even when he doesn't know how we're going to do it, it's just like, okay, he has so much trust and, in the things that I do, like he's I think he's way too supportive.
believes in the
Like he's
vision.
a ride or die. Even sometimes then he's like, ooh, I think we may need to move back home because this, and I've maxed out. He's funded my firm. My firm like owed him a lot of money and owed me a lot of money. And but yeah, it's our thing that we're building. So he didn't look at it that way. And so I was like, okay, we need to move here. You're like, yeah, let's do it. Now I'm 5 minutes away from work. But, things just, I would listen to, I believe, what was God's voice in my heart in terms of guidance, because I was praying for him to help me. I said, God, I don't ever want to work like, 24/7. I want to be present for my children, but I want to make enough so I can enjoy life and live out my full purpose and dreams. And yeah, I went there, and my first client, the Spain transaction, was a walk-in. So those are the types of clients that would walk in. And this lady was a retired doctor who worked in London all her life. And she became my first client. She transacted in Spain and made all the mistakes, and came to me after having paid millions to the seller before signing a contract. And I had to renegotiate and help her get out of the deal, or help her actually sort out the deal so that everything made sense for her before she paid the rest of the purchase price. And so I was negotiating with this international lawyer who's based in Spain, was also protecting clients' interest, but also leaning towards the side of the seller. So there was conflict of interest. There were a lot of things. But I did that for her, and she loved me. And at the end, she took transfer. She wanted me to fly to Spain to take transfer for her. In Spain, the notaries are the ones who transfer ownership.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I can't leave my business. But I was like, my husband was like, oh, that's a nice holiday. But yeah, so those are the types of people that I was getting the opportunity to interact with and call my clients.
Sure.
And as somebody who grew up in Soshanguve, to have that kind of proximity made me feel like there's nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
There's nothing. As long as I have God and I ask him for guidance, he will open any door I ask him to if it's meant for me.
Sure.
So yeah,
Oh,
the rest is history.
I love your story and your journey. And there's a book by Brene Brown, I think it's Dare to Dream or something like that. as well as braving the wilderness. I think what you've done with your life or with your career is brave through the wilderness. And it is so inspiring to
Thank
see
you.
people, girls like me, to see them win and to see them achieve things that seem far off. And I mean, in a tough industry like property, we look at you and think, if she can,
Yeah,
I can too. I don't have to. It's like you become the template. I don't have to go through depression to
Yeah.
be able to get there. I can simply
Absolutely.
lean on you to be
Yeah.
able to get there. So I truly appreciate it. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for honoring my invite.
Thank you for having me.
In closing, what is the season of your life?
Sure. I think this season is a season of just self-love and caring for, like, paying attention to the things that I've always put,
Aside.
aside because I was surviving. Like, my life is a story of I'm surviving. I'm trying to get out of the hood. I'm trying to, so even the things that I needed to pay attention to about myself and and care a little bit more, pamper myself a little bit more. I never used to do, because I was like, we need to do work, like sleep a little bit more, go for pamper, close your laptop. You don't have to always be so busy. Now I'm in that season where I allow myself to relax and I control my time. So I can wake up at 2 a.m. and be on my email, but maybe at 1 a.m. when people are slaving away in the office, I'm chilling at the
Yeah.
beach. So that's the season, and I'm leaning into, just being used to caring for myself a little bit more and understanding that I'm the fuel, I'm the machine that's driving this thing. So I need to give, to myself so that I can continue doing what I'm doing. I'm not where I know I need to be yet, but it's a process, and I'm going to enjoy every minute, whether good or bad. So yeah, that's where I am. Peace of mind, self-care, and keep
And
on
you're
killing it.
striving. You've
Yeah.
you've removed yourself from survival mode into
Yeah.
striving.
Yeah, it took work, but yeah, here we are, doing new things. Skyline Attorney Realtors, we're making, we're doing some amazing announcements today.
Oh,
With an
today is a big
investor
day.
that I've brought in, so having a co-founder, and that's just me solving, my own problems, and not saying, oh, Cape Town is so monopolized. The agents are only taking the work to SCBB. No, I can solve my own problems. God has given me that
Sure.
kind of mindset, but I do also appreciate and accept that it's not easy. It's not. It's just what you choose. Like, my perspective is very, like, different. It's like, I'm either gonna do something that's gonna hurt my, my train of thought, or I'm gonna do something that's gonna help me move forward. And so what I'm choosing to do is helping me move forward each time.
Love that. Thank you so much to everybody at home. Happy Employment Wednesdays. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you took a lesson from it. And always remember, you are never alone. You are gracefully anchored. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you for watching.